Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert.
And Ryan, what are
And
we
today,
doing?
Ryan, we are going to look at the acclaimed director Quentin Tarantino, and we are going to rank his 10 movies.
Wait, so it's not pronounced Tarantino?
Quasar Tarantula.
Oh, Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, correct.
Yes, my bad.
Now, I did say 10 movies. Technically, he has directed 10 movies, but he considers two of the movies one movie, which is Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. For the sake of this list, we are considering them two movies, and we are going to rank them however we feel
I mean,
on their individual merit.
maybe if the whole bloody affair, the release of the two movies as one movie, if that was accessible to be watched, we could rank it that way. But the two movies are separate movies, and I'd say that the movies are separate in like if any sequel is a separate movie, then its predecessor, then I think it's fair to rank them
Yeah.
separately.
What I'll say is that like they both also just have like different like he's doing a little bit of different stylistic stuff with each one.
Yeah.
Totally fair to do. I respect that he considers them one movie. I get it. It's volume one, volume two, it's a continuation. But like you can't like the fact is if it was really one movie, you would have been able to cut it up, make it tighter, and put it into one movie. It is two movies that require two movies length of time, and you even did different styles in them. So I respect him saying it's one for the sake of I'm gonna make 10 films, his 10 film plan. But they're two, and they are of differing quality. And if you combine them, I don't know if it does perhaps one justice over the other to try and look them together.
Yeah. I'm
So
having them separately on my list, definitely they're not, I don't have them particularly close, to be honest. Though I think I also I do want to preface this, especially saying my number 10, because I think my number 10 is going to be controversial for being 10th place. I think these are all quite good movies. I think like the lowest one I still think is a pretty darn, if not really good movie. But they're we're putting in order things that are like pretty understood to be great things, and they're great, excellent, like top tier movies in this, that
yeah,
we just kind of got to do what we got to do.
yeah. I will, in my opinion, and it's funny because I, for a long time, considered Tarantino my favorite director, and it was really after I watched certain ones of his movies that I was just like, wow, these movies are like really unique, different. Like the storytelling is great. Like this, things that Tarantino is kind of known for, and they
Yeah.
just stood out and really wowed me. However, after I did have to go and watch one movie to catch up and have watched all of them and really just reflecting there are specifically two movies, and they will be my like bottom two, where I will say as much as I can kind of respect them for what they were, I didn't really like love them, enjoy them that much. I enjoyed them as decent enough film, but I'm uh like I wouldn't go back and watch them. The other ones are all like rewatchable, really standout pieces of film art. And some of my love I think are like fantastic, like some of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, I respect that, but I my bottom two will not get too much acclaim for me.
I will say I wish that I had the time to do rewatches on some of these movies. There is one specific movie that I decided to rewatch because I had not seen it since it came out in theaters a fair long time ago, and I'll talk about that in the context of when I get to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, some of these I watched for the first time, and some I've not watched in like a decade, and I just felt like I remember it well enough that I can give a good ranking on it, but I don't know for sure. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I relied on some of my how I felt about it from like the last time I watched it, which was some time ago for a bunch of them. But
I Pulp Fiction's one where like if I if I had never rewatched that movie, I'd be like, it's fine. I like it. That movie needs the rewatch.
It does have some impact that can be forgotten with time.
Yeah.
But alas, I think we should get started.
Alrighty. Who
Brother,
wants to start it?
you give me your number 10 first.
My number 10. Like I said, I feel like this is going to be controversial. I think people like this movie. I believe it got nominated for Best Picture. Um, and it is his most recent film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Um,
Hmm.
I so again, I think all these are good movies, so I don't want to. There's not really a lot I can say about why I think it's deserving of 10, why I think it's worse than everything else. It so I'm just gonna say things I like about it. Um, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's doing his acting. I'm sad that I have him so low for such a good acting performance. Um, this is not a well, I don't know if this is a popular opinion, but I think my favorite scene in that movie is just Margot Robbie playing Sharon
Sharon
Tate
Tate.
going to the movie theater and watching herself in the movie, and like there's just something about that scene that made me like, oh, I don't want her to get killed. Tarantino, save her. And
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah. Spoiler.
Maybe. And then I like all those memes showing how many people in like the Manson family like went on to be like notably famous actors and actresses afterwards. Like I feel like it's like Austin Butler, Maya Hawke. I think Sydney Sweeney was in there.
Mhm.
I could be wrong about who all was in there, but it's a fine movie. I
Huh,
just
interesting. I didn't actually realize or connect. It has been a little while since I watched it. I will also admit it's low on my list. It's not my 10, but I also kind of feel some of the same ways that you probably do on that. Did not, from my memory, connect that those like if the three that you said there are accurate that they were because obviously yeah they did kind of get a little more acclaim over the next few years. So um, but I think other people did enjoy that movie more. I totally respect you putting it 10. I maybe it's a hot take to some people, but I just get it. And when we get to, where I have it ranked, then we'll, I can probably expand on how I agree with you.
I was accurate about the three that I named. The other one I wanted to note was Margaret Qualley, who people would probably best know in the substance as the Sue,
Ah,
but
oh,
she's in other stuff. But yeah, it a star-studded little cast of up and comers there. But yeah, so like why is it 10? I think I just liked everything else more is kind of what it's about. And even the year it came out, I feel like it wasn't my favorite thing that came out that year. I remember being solidly good. It's just, yeah, yeah.
yep. Again, fair enough. Then moving into my number 10.
You're number 10.
My number 10, the movie I watched most recently. It was the only one I
Okay.
had to watch, which
So
is Jackie Brown.
interesting.
Had never seen Jackie Brown before. And this is where, I watched it with my roommate. And what I will say about it is like there are some really like I think great character, a good story. But what I feel like with this movie, and here's the thing, maybe it's the expectation after having watched almost every other, or not say almost, but every other Tarantino film, having a certain expectation on what his films kind of like deliver. Um, that this movie felt like such a slow burn that we got past the climax and I didn't even realize the movie had climaxed. Like that's really how I felt. I was like, okay, that was it, right? Okay, so, and we see like some of his like time hopping kind of going back and forth thing. Um, but like moments that kind of felt like they were like a thing or they were kind of major just didn't really feel that major, right? Like things that were pretty significant, like kind of like uh, you know, I don't know if we matter about spoilers, but like, you know, some people getting like shot and stuff later in the movie. tracks with like with who the people are in the movie and the kind of like where their character could go. But I'm like, yeah, I just didn't have any like emotional impact. I didn't really care, I didn't really get much from it. And by the end of the movie, it was just kind of like, okay, there's the end. That's kind of how I felt about it. And what I respected is that it was a tight and well done story. And I did admire some of the acting, but overall, it just really didn't wow me at all. And that's like, for honestly, for the list of Tarantino movies, a lot of them, even some of the maybe to say slower ones, still have like wow, punchy like moments, climaxes, scenes that like this one just didn't really have for me.
I because I couldn't remember what the one movie you hadn't seen was, and I thought maybe it was Jackie Brown. But it's still interesting that you have it as low as you do, especially because I feel like that's one of those movies where, like, when I hear people talk about Tarantino, like there'd be a handful of people who'd be like, Jackie Brown's really good, and I feel like it's sort of like it's much like Death Proof. I think those two movies are kind of like outside of like the rest of his movies and feeling like a little bit different, even though some of the trademark Tarantino qualities are still in them. They have like a different vibe to them than other
Mm.
Tarantino films. But yeah, I do agree because that was one of the movies I had to watch going into this. So I watched it fairly recently for the first time. I agree. It is a slow burn.
Yeah.
So
A
yeah.
little too slow burn for me. Which, to be fair, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, also a slow burn.
Yeah.
But at least we get some like there's some points of interest. There's some scenes that are like iconic moments in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then we do get like a clear climax that
Mhm.
feels pretty like punchy and good. So Jackie Brown just had the and here's the thing. I don't want to like sit here and like degrade it, but like I respect directors doing something a little different. I respect that it is a little different. I see that Tarantino kind of tries to do that in a lot of his film. Like he does take in elements and try to do not always do quite the same thing. Um, even though he does have his style. But yeah, it just is what it is. Like I came to the end of it was like, wow, this is I pretty clearly was like, this is my least favorite
Yeah.
Tarantino film.
It's his foray into a black exploitation style film,
Mhm.
and it is how he delivered it. But yeah. So it, I'll have more to say about that movie later.
Mhm.
But if you want to go into your number nine, which I believe I know what it is, pretty
What do you
solid.
think it is?
I well, you said before that your least favorite was Death Proof, so
Yeah.
I'm guessing
So
it's Death Proof.
it is Death Proof. Yeah, it is Death Proof. I can just sum this one up. I'm not a horror guy, and I respect what the movie was. But it was just kind of like a horror slasher type thing that I didn't super appeal to, and also it's short. It's not even a whole lot of movie. So, which understandably, like it came out with the Grindhouse, Planet Terror, like they were a double feature type thing. But it's like, it's just not a lot of movie, and it's not even my kind of movie, and that's pretty much it. Like,
So I remember you saying that's a short movie, and I remember thinking it was a short movie. It's an hour and a half. It's a feature length film.
huh. It's crazy because my memory of it is it being really short. But
And the
I
thing is,
guess
like if you think about the movie, it doesn't feel like that much happens in it, because there is a group of girls one, group of girls two,
yeah.
and it's like it's easy to shrink down both of those into being shorter things than they are,
Hmm.
but you actually spend a lot of time in between the actual like what's his name, Kurt Russell, is
Kurt
that it?
Russell. Yep.
Yeah,
Kurt
you
Russell.
spend a lot of time in between him showing up.
Yeah. What I'll say is that movie, and so why does it edge out Jackie Brown? It's just got a little more for me, right? Kurt Russell, I really enjoy his performance. I kind of like like it does build up to something. It does have like a whoa, like when, like the first, scene of girls and when he like crashes the car and stuff like that.
The
It
first
does
scene
have a
of
bit of like
girls
whoa factor.
and then the car chase thing
Yeah.
are, I think, are things. Well, I'll talk about it when I talk about it later because I do not have it at number nine. But if you want to
Uh,
say anything else,
a fun fact, Zoe Bell, I believe, did the stunt driving for that car scene.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I believe she was the stunt driver in prior Tarantino works.
yeah. So interesting little thing there. I just that was like a fun fact I heard.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Death Proof number nine. It had a little more, just a little more punch, and so that it sticks out in my memory more. And because of that, it edged out a little above Jackie Brown, even though before that it was like my lowest one.
Yeah. So if that's all you have to say, I can go
Just
to my number nine,
mhm.
which ironically is The Hateful Eight. But I
Ah,
do not have it at eight, unfortunately.
mhm.
But so this is one of the movies I had to watch for the first time going into this. I watched it as a movie. I believe it was recut to be like a series on Netflix, but I watched it as an actual movie. And I was surprised at how good it was because I remember it coming out and people being like kind of mid about it, and like because it was also something that got pushed back because I think the script got leaked and so he didn't want to do it, and then he ended up doing it, and I whatever. So when I actually got around to watching it, I was like, this is good. I'm interested in it. It's pretty
Mhm.
long, I will say. And there's some aspects with like where it goes, where certain things are like kind of pushing it. There's also this sort of, I guess, twist to the movie that sort of reframes everything that happened because it like goes back in time and shows you what led up. That scene kind of bummed me out.
Mhm.
But it has to happen because it sets up how bad these people are. But
Mhm.
I think it's good. I think it's a good movie. And it
Yeah,
has the valuable, uh incomparable Walton Goggins.
yep.
And had I known he was in it, like maybe I would have watched it sooner.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that he gets, some of his boys, some of the regulars in there. And really just, it's like all-star cast of
Yeah.
folks just, putting on for these characters. Some of them are really much more minor roles overall, as far as like what interactions they get. But, I found it to be really enjoyable watching most of them, get screen time.
Yeah. I think as a movie, like it's just like something you sit down and watch. I think as far as the because this is kind of in the genre of like a rewritten history thing, but not quite. But of those, I feel like the thing that makes it stand out as not as good as the other ones is that it does not necessarily have a I feel like it doesn't necessarily have a point to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like you know,
It's just like,
it's what I felt like it's sort of just like a mystery, It's like
yeah,
finding out kind of like there's hey, we're trying to get this, if I just look at the structure, like, hey, we're trying to get this woman to, this villain to a thing, and we have to stay at this place. And then something happens, and it's
yeah.
like, okay, what's going on? Like, and then and at that point, it's really like a mystery of like understand what's happening here, like what's happening with these people, and somebody is not, somebody's a traitor,
Mhm.
somebody is, and who the,
It's Among
you know,
Us.
yeah, yeah, it is Among Us. It's so
I
that's
saw
that's
I saw
what I
Samuel L. Jackson Ben
get from
Affleck,
it.
I swear.
Hmm.
Uh,
Um, well, that's
um,
your number nine,
I think
right?
I go to
And
my number
so lead right into your not hateful eight.
my new numero ocho
Hmm.
is gonna be maybe also controversial. I don't know. I feel like it kind of belongs in the bottom half, but it's still good, obviously. Django Unchained is my number eight. And this is a movie I haven't watched since it came out in theaters, so maybe I'm a rewatch could have maybe like it more. But I think again, this is solidly in his genre of like rewritten history that I think is best exemplified by this. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglorious Bastards. And
Mhm.
so, but I think some of the other movies in this era kind of fit that vibe. And Django Unchained, following Inglorious Bastards, I think does not quite deliver in the same way that that movie does. And so I feel like I find myself comparing it in a way. Um, but things that are good about it, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's quite good in it.
Yep.
Jamie Foxx, he's pulls off the front leading man action star quite well.
Mhm.
Christoph Waltz, he's not Inglorious Bastards level good in this, but he's still Christoph Waltz in it, which is to say
Yep.
he's good.
Yep.
Um, and I think the thing that I remember standing out to me about this movie being my favorite part was that like ending action sequence,
Mhm.
particularly when like the wife gets killed and she gets like, I think she gets shot and she just like flies backwards.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment being my favorite thing that happened in that movie. But yeah, like again, it's a good movie. You definitely get a fun sense of like, hell yeah, these slavers are getting killed,
Yeah.
similar to the vibes of watching Inglorious Bastards. I just think it's yeah, it's just it's weird to try and say bad things about it when I think it's really good.
I I get that. And everything you're saying, yeah, it tracks. I think it to agree with you on some of the the points of like when yeah you kind of like hit a lot of like the really good parts. Christoph Waltz, like some of the acting is just like great. You get the revenge porn, like over the top violence stuff. But it's I think what I'll say is that like in some ways I don't feel like we grow to like really like I don't know, like really like love the Django character as
Yeah,
much. Like
I think
we obviously root for him and stuff, but we're not like, like when he fails, it's not like, oh no, like there isn't like as much, I don't know, you could say like emotional depth.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
I maybe that's it, but I'll be interested to hear what you have to say when we get to it for you. But in any case, you can go to your number 8 for
Okay,
now.
my number eight, and since we talked about it, I can expand a little more, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Also was, one of my like really in obviously before I had seen Jackie Brown. And honestly, like Death Proof, I almost like kind of had forgotten about it. That I didn't maybe even fully like realize it was a Quentin Tarantino film. Um, and so, looking at just every other film that Tarantino had made, after I watched that movie, and it was like I consider myself like Tarantino is like my favorite director for a while. And when I saw it was coming out, I was like Leo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, like there's like a scene with like a Bruce Lee in it. Like there's a lot of like elements before it came out that was like, wow. And Margot Robbie, like at the time, she was like kind of like top peak,
Yeah,
popularity. I was like, wow, this is gonna be like amazing, right? And so admittedly, a lot of time, you go in with expectations up here
I think
and
that
sometimes
affected
you can
me.
miss.
I think I probably had it overhyped too. Also,
Yeah, and so not only did it not meet expectations, which I don't want to say like that, makes it a worse of a movie, but I acknowledge that like I did like expect it to be really great. Is that yeah, it is also kind of a slow burn. And for all the same things that you mentioned, that like some really stellar performances, pieces that I do respect, like the getting to see Sharon Tate like in this natural like just connecting with her as like a regular person, so you also almost feel even worse for her. And yes, like you said, like the oh my God, it's so terrible. Like the I'll actually say this though, I didn't know who Sharon Tate was. I actually did not have that context. So that's maybe a piece I was missing, which, you're like, Robert, how do you not know about that cultural event? It's not something I was aware of.
I only knew
So,
about it in the context of this movie, like going into the movie, because people talked about that being the context.
yeah. And so I didn't have the context of who she was. And I think maybe it would have improved the movie. Like there would have been a sense of foreboding or like, oh my God, that's Sharon Tate. Oh my God, those are the Manson
Yes.
twins. Like those things would have connected better. It would have been like, oh, we're going in a direction that we can expect, and then for it to be subverted. I
Hmm.
think if I had understood that or had that cultural historical information, it might have improved some of the movie a little bit. But as a movie on its own, assuming maybe you just don't, and we're just watching what it was, it's kind of a slow burn. There's a lot of stuff that goes on where, we spend like a lot of time like developing character, and like the payoff isn't so like crazy supreme. Like, wow, all that time we spent like building this up doesn't like land in a place where you're like, it was justified. Like how much, we did for that.
You know,
And
I didn't talk much about it when I was had it on my list, but I actually forgot something that I had thought about in thinking about the movie, putting it at number 10 is the fact that I'm sorry for interrupting you for this,
okay.
but the the DiCaprio Brad Pitt storyline could have been its own movie without the Manson thing being involved. Like the Manson thing is low key. While I think the Manson stuff at like is interesting and is cool, I also feel like and the like the end scene with like the fire and the pool is all very entertaining. I feel
Yeah.
like if you scrub that from the movie and if it was just about the Leo character, I
Mhm.
think it's a better movie, probably. I think it's a more focused movie.
Yep, and I think that's a great way to encapsulate, what the issue is with it. It's a little too much, and I mean, it's like a 3 hour runtime. So like clearly there's some stuff that could have been left on the cutting room floor,
Yeah.
and like maybe even if you kept some of the Manson elements in, but like you could just cut down some of what's going on with Brad Pitt and Leo, and maybe a little more of the Sharon Tate story. Like you don't need like 4 scenes of her like doing normal stuff to like build that up a little bit. You could have cut a bunch of stuff and made it tighter, and I think it would have been better that way. But we meander through so much with them to just be like, okay, this is what we were getting to, And it's like that's a lot of buildup for it to just be these guys live next door to her. He's the kind of guy that knows karate, and he's got a flamethrower, and they break into his house first, and they kill them, and so Sharon Tate lives. Like that's like what we spent like 2.5 hours to
Yeah.
explain, and it's like you still enjoy the ride of like watching them and because they're good actors, and seeing some of those scenes. There's just some interesting scenes there. But it isn't like it's just not a tight movie. Like it wasn't, and that's I think that's what hurts it, right? I think he was trying to cram too much cool idea in there and not focusing enough on just making his storytelling a little tighter, and it
Agreed.
just suffers for that. And it's like you want it to be better, like it had all the elements to be better, and it was just a little bit of excess, which I think maybe you could say like Tarantino with time, like he's obviously grown in directing and in his acclaim, and I think it's a symptom of sometimes when directors like they make so many movies and then they just kind of forget the roots of like keeping it tight. And Tarantino is like I think if you watch like some interviews with him, he's a very like professor like sticking to the roots of like good filmmaking, and storytelling and how to craft film. So he's like a big proponent of that. Also, I think what obviously he used this as like kind of a love letter to like old Hollywood a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's even part of like why he spent more time because he was really just like using that to flesh out that theme or message he wasn't there. So, but like I digress. Those are a lot. I definitely have like big thoughts on like why it's not as good of a movie. You know, but the thing is, it's like it's easy to say it beats Jackie Brown at Death Proof because again, like it is 3 hours of watching Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, um, drips of Margot Robbie, and then still like flamethrowers one of the Manson guys into a pool before they kill Sharon Tate. So that's like pretty
Yeah.
pretty satisfying way to end it off.
That was the best acting I've ever seen.
Yeah. Um
But
okay, well yeah, that is my number 8. And I'm glad I got I was almost like looking forward to expanding on that one because it's one that's got like a lot to say about
yeah,
why it's
there's so much of it.
its weak points. So that is my number 8. Um does that bring us into my
Your
7
number
or
seven. Your
my
seven.
7?
Yes.
Well, good thing. Yeah, we're gonna touch back on one that you just talked about, which is Django.
Yeah.
Um, Django, for all the same reasons that you said it's good, it is good. Leo, like his performance in it, and again, I like YouTube Shorts knows that I like Tarantino, and it sends me a lot of like clips of him and like fun facts. So, fun fact, Leo's performance when he slaps the table, yeah.
Yeah.
So for everybody that hasn't already seen that thing, he really cut himself and just stayed in it. And I'm like super admirable. All the acting moments are great, but there's just something about like yeah, I think I already kind of said it. It's like
Yeah, on
Jamie
it.
Foxx as like our protagonist. Like I'm gonna say it like this: is that Christoph Waltz kind of undercuts like him as a protagonist, and but then he just gets like chopped off. So it's a little like
Uh,
I think that's even like maybe a small issue with the movie in a sense. It's like yeah, him not being the lead was like you couldn't make him the lead for obviously what the movie was, but I'm like he's got like more charm than Jamie Foxx. So. Yeah, I don't know. That's it's a little pieces that, but the movie is as you've already said, like all these movies are great, so it's not like I'm really like saying it's bad by any means, but it just where we get to with the story, I think like Tarantino also just uses this as a vehicle for like revisionist history, revenge porn against like
yes.
KKK and slavers and just writes like an inspiring story of like a black man like overcoming the oppression of that day. And
And that's
it's
what
like
makes it entertaining and good and like fun
yeah,
to watch. You like that stuff. Like it's
yeah,
cool.
exactly.
But what yeah, it's kind of what's lying underneath like the narrative, the central focus of the movie, the main character. It's like how like it like and when you're comparing it to other movies, how good is this in comparison? It
Mhm.
falls short to some other ones.
Yep. And I agree. I think it serves as a great vehicle for that message, and I enjoy the journey. And it is a fine story. Like we get it, and we get from A to Z. But it's just not like as far as like the storytelling goes, fantastic. It serves its purpose, and you enjoy it. You enjoy it for what it is. So, but yeah, that's Django Unchained, my seven. Me expanding on in that point. How about your number seven?
I get to expand on one of your movies because my number seven is Death Proof. And I'm sure
Okay,
you're
all right.
surprised they got this high,
Mhm.
but I actually think this movie's pretty cool. Um, above anything, this movie deserves praise for that the murder scene right smack dab in the middle of that movie with those first girls and the car chase sequence at the end, as well as like the final sort of like them kicking the crap out of him
Mhm.
after they catch him. That stuff is just peak cinema, absolute cinema. I will say I will say that first half when you're just sort of following these girls and it's a very Tarantino, it's very sitting at a table at a restaurant just having conversation, sitting in a car just having
Yeah.
conversation. And it is weaker Tarantino in the sense that normally in these scenes you have a Samuel L. Jackson, you have a
Steve
I'm
Buscemi.
a Steve Buscemi. I wanted to say Steve Buscemi, but he's really just in the one movie.
Yeah, he's in that one movie, but I mean, like that. I mean, that's one of my favorite, Tarantino sitting having a conversation scenes ever. So,
Like, yeah. So you have these specific actors that can like carry the scene, and these girls, they're not terrible, but they're not a caliber actors. They are there to be kind of disposed of, especially the first group of girls. The second
mhm.
group of girls, I think, excels a little more because they are like a little more notable. Why am I forgetting freaking Ahsoka's actress?
Rosario
Uh,
Dawson.
Rosario Dawson,
Mhm.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she's in there even though she doesn't get to be in the chase sequence. And then was it Zoe Bell, the stunt
Yeah.
woman? Yeah, like all four of the women on the second half are better actresses and can carry scenes better than the first half girls. But I still think the first half was fun in its sort of schlocky horror thing. Also, the way that the movie uses like stylized filming to be a part of like the grindhouse thing, but then completely drops it for the second half. The second half stops having the film grain and stuff.
Mhm.
It's kind
Yeah.
of weird. It's kind of wild. There's like this sequence in the center. of the movie where like the cops explain like he survived the crash. It's does not need to be in there. There's a lot of issues, and Tarantino considers it his worst movie, but I don't know. I think it's pretty fun.
Fair enough, and again, like I already touched on it, like the reasons why I respect some of those parts. Like that first like the first murder with the first set of girls is like um definitely
Impactful.
like wow, that's like
You don't
a
forget it.
scene. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
scene, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it really just circles back to I'm not a horror guy. I'm
Yeah.
not a horror guy. So like, yeah, cool. That's okay. I'll tell you right now, going to that movie, right? This is I mean, I watched it like, close to back when it came out. So like
Mhm.
like I was in like high school. So, I'm not like as sophisticated at watching movies. And I went into it, I had no idea what I was expecting. And I was just like, what the fuck was that? So and to be honest, that's my old memory of it. I still have like a pretty good, I can like envision almost the whole movie pretty well, but I go off that like subjective feeling, and that's kind of just where it delivers me. I'm like, I even if I watched it again today, maybe I'd appreciate it more, but I don't think I would like rank it higher.
Yeah, honestly, I still think like I watched it and I was like, even if you rewatch this, I don't think you would love it. Um, uh, I think you would appreciate parts of it more, but I also feel like you would dislike it more for the flaws that it has.
Yeah, and so it's probably just right where it needs to be, even if
I
it,
think you have it fairly ranked for your taste level.
yeah. Okay, so that was your number seven.
Going
So we would
into
be
number
moving on
six.
to your number six.
My number six is Kill Bill Volume 2. And the
Ooh,
reason I'm kind of
ooh.
being
Our number sixes are Kill Bill Volume 2.
okay,
All
cool.
right, we can talk about it. Nice.
Together. All right. So obviously we both agree it is the
Mm,
weaker Kill Bill.
yes,
And
absolutely.
not to say that it's bad, because obviously it
Hmm.
made it fairly high. It's just it's having to do a lot of more it's just slower. It does a lot
Yeah.
less action. It's
Hmm.
trying to pay off stuff that was set up in the first one, and it
Hmm.
does it in a very different style, but then it also sets up new things and go talk like yeah, like I had to like re-look up the plot of it just to sort of remember what happens because most of my memories watching Kill Bill are the first movie and then
Hmm.
like the final act of Kill Bill 2.
Yeah, you are right. It's you hit all the correct points that I would say. It is just slower. And you know what I'm going to say? We are ranking them separately,
Yeah.
okay, as two different movies on their own merit, but the second of two, which I'll tell you right now, like it's not as if the second of two like Dune and Dune 2 better, right?
Yeah.
Climax better, right? Finish, payoff, all that. What I'll say in the
A lot of the time twos are better.
mhm. And so what I'm going to say, and this is kind of like a point for Kill Bill Volume 1, and what leads into this is that Kill Bill Volume 1 sets up and pays off already so much and feels like a complete movie. Like obviously it ends and you like want to see what else happens, but like if he never made number 2, you'd be satisfied watching number 1.
People would be
If
like,
you
I want to know what happens to the bride, but they would still rewatch it. It would be like a cult classic. People would be like, this film got robbed that it never got a sequel.
exactly, like it's just, stand out on its own. Volume 2 is really just the conclusion of that first one, and
Yeah.
that's how it feels. It's like, okay, cool, we're just finishing everything up. This is how she gets to kill Bill.
Yeah. Kill Bill Volume 2 is as satisfying as it is because of
Mhm.
how good the first one is.
Yeah.
It's riding a high of the first one. Not
Mhm.
to say that it's bad, but it gets it gets a leg up because of the first one.
Yeah. And it's just like it is what it is, right? And again, for all the good of it and that it does conclude that, in a satisfying way, it pays off the setups from the first movie. It like you said also, it has to set up its own things for the sake of itself as well.
Mhm.
And so like we just spend a bunch of like that time where we should it's like it you can't climax that hard in number one and like there's no way to reach that peak and they are like kind of the same they're of the same continuum and they're the same movie we climaxed in the first part of the movie like so where do we go from there like the fact that we do circle back in that the killing of Bill does, it does make sense with some of that payoff. It just can't really stand up to the first one. And even to say, like, if you compare it to some of their films, kind of just try and take it a little on its own merit for its entertainment and what it does, like, yeah, it just, it's not gonna like it does ride from number one a bit. And so it rides out over like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like I still appreciate more of what's being done in two than like the kind of the bloat of that. I still can appreciate like it being a finish and what it does over Django and some of the other stuff we rated it over. But again, it's like it just pales next to
Yeah.
one which you have to compare it with.
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of, yeah, that's really where it's at. So it's convenient we got to talk about it together.
Yeah.
And considering how much overlap we've already had, I feel like we'll get a fair amount of chance. I'm hoping we'll get the chance to do this again in our top uh fours at least. I know that my
Yeah.
five is different.
Yeah, I mean, with what's left, I would suspect that we'll be close to, our numbers. If they
Yeah.
aren't on top of each other, they'll be right next to. So, well, this would have been your opportunity to talk about your six, but we talked about both of them. So I guess you can talk about your five if we're
Well,
reaching the
I
top
would have
five.
transferred into your
Hmm.
six, which was the same movie, and then you'd go to your
Ah,
five. So you can go to your five.
yes. Okay, so my number five is, and I don't know if this is like a hot take or anything, is The Hateful Eight.
All
So.
right.
And so this, I sort of mentioned it, and if you take what I kind of even said about the last one, is that basically there's a mystery. There's a mystery in this movie, and like I don't like horror that much, but I do like mysteries. I do like intriguing, like what's happening, investigate, try to figure it out stuff. And there's something about that movie. I think it has great buildup. Like it's setup is really good. The character play on this one is just great and fun,
Hmm.
and that that is still, oh, sorry. So I'm just kidding. But yeah, the setup on that one is good. The character play is great. We get to just see multiple of these, returning Tarantino actors really just put on great performances. And then like a few like Walton Goggins, not, but like, oh wow, who you
Yeah.
love to see. And so I just appreciate like so much about this. What I'll say is like, in a sense it does have a cool, it has great Tarantino moments of like sitting and just having conversations. And it's got some that revenge. This one's not like as like charged in like the revenge porn of like taking down slavers like from Django Unchained or like killing a Sharon Tate. But it is like a little bit of a satisfying like killing the bad guys, like taking revenge on the bad guys, making the shitty people get their comeuppance. But also, you're like everybody in the room's kind of a shitty person, so like in their own ways. So like none of them deserve necessarily anything good, but the ones that are like really bad kind of, get what they deserve. And the mystery of it, the reveal, the final, all just felt really satisfying to me. I
Yeah.
just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching them get to work, and that's what I mean. I have fond memories of it. I watched it like three times actually because I enjoyed it that much. Um, it's one of the ones I would say, like, if you think about this, is that Django, Kill Bill, like some of these movies I've watched multiple times, right? I will never watch Jackie Brown again. I don't think I'm ever going to try and watch Death Proof. And if Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was on, I wouldn't, change the channel, but it's not what I'm ever going to go put on.
Yeah.
Uh, Django, I have rewatched like half and parts of it. Kill Bill Volume 2, I've watched it like three times. Hateful Eight, I put it on and watched it, on purpose a second time and then like inadvertently watched it a third time. So
Honestly, I kind of agree. It does have a rewatchable, it has a watchability to it where like it is like a fairly long movie. And I was just like literally like I was watching it late at night, and like I think Martin had come home while I was watching it, and I like or I had to go pick him up, and I had paused it and I was like, I want to keep watching this, but like I don't want to be rude and like keep watching this. And he was like, no, keep watching it. It's a good movie. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, thank you.
yeah. And so to say on the rewatchable amount of it, like because like other movies are somewhat straightforward, right? Like obviously at the end, the Once Upon a Time, I was like, oh, whoa, Sharon Tate thing. But this is like a mystery and it's setting stuff up and there's different interactions. And the second watch is like, oh, now I notice more things, right?
I wonder if I'd have it higher ranked if I had the chance to rewatch it. Maybe I should rewatch it in that where it's recut into like a mini series. If
That's
that'll,
interesting. I didn't know that they did that. I could see
I'm
how.
pretty sure they did that.
I mean, I don't know if you're. It sounds like they could. Obviously, it's long enough, and I can see how it can be episodic, right? If you did 20 to 25 minute cuts over like six different episodes, I could see how if you cut it up like the last two, can be like climactic. Like here's the big stuff kind of happening in the fifth of the episodes, and then the sixth is like
Yeah,
the final resolution.
a re-edited version of the film was released as a 4 episode miniseries with a
Ah.
subtitle extended version on
Hmm.
Netflix.
Interesting. I would actually rewatch it as that. That'd be kind of cool to do. Pretty fun.
Yeah.
But that's Hateful Eight. It is the bottom of my top five. And so that would lead us into your top five.
And my top five, my number five specifically, secures the fact that we have the same movies in our top four because my number five is Jackie Brown.
Okay.
And look, it is a slow burn.
Mhm.
I did find myself like early on kind of like being like, is it like this is kind of just like a lot of the Samuel Jackson like talking at De Niro, really. De Niro wasn't having much of conversation, or him talking with Chris Tucker, or all this like sort of like setting up of stuff early on. I found it was feeling a bit slow, but I think the more time we get to spend with Jackie Brown throughout the movie, the more I'm like I'm just on her side, and she's just cool and a badass, and she has this plan that you don't know how good it is until she pulls it off, and she kind of pulls it off in this really satisfying way. And then the bail bondsman dude, I just thought like the way that he like was like crushing on her was like I found it endearing, and the fact that he like went and bought like the a cassette of the record she played just to like have something to think about her. I thought that was a nice touch. I thought the music in the movie in general was really good. I think Tarantino generally does good soundtracks, but I think particularly the way it's set, the scene of the movie and the style of the movie and the general style of the movie, I think really hits what it's going for very well. And then the ending is satisfying and it gives you what you want for the character. I think Samuel L. Jackson as a villain in this is like one of his better sort of villain portrayals that I've seen, because like you don't like recognize that he is the villain when he's first introduced in the story, but you like sort of figure it out just by his actions, and you're like, oh, I cannot trust this guy, and I don't want like, and you sort of see that Jackie Brown figures that out, even though she's kind of allied with him. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. And it's kind of like it feels very different from the rest of his movies, but it does have this like sort of like it's like he wanted to make this style kind of movie, and so he was very specifically trying to do that style of movie, and I think he pulls it off.
Yeah. What I'll give him is that it's yeah, you kind of talked about like how Samuel L. Jackson ends up like makes him out to be the villain. And I think of it like that we see our protagonist, like Jackie Brown, like our focus, how she actually plays between these two antagonizing forces and like really brings them together so that she comes out ahead. And I appreciate that, like for the structure. I think it's a cool thing that he plays off of. There's this one thing actually that I thought of right while you were talking is a moment of, oh, I want to also say soundtrack. Yes. I didn't say anything about it before, but soundtrack is actually really, really good, which you're also right. Tarantino in general, good with his music choice, pretty much across all his movies. But I think Jackie Brown does an exceptional job setting its tone, like you said. What I was thinking is that what would have improved, I think, the movie is if he used, because we get the when they're doing like the switch and stuff, and how we get that like cut back time, view from the other
For the
side.
heist.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
heist, for the little switcheroo with the bags and stuff. I think he could have used what would have been like a little more creative, because we didn't quite know her plan, but we kind of like did. Like it was a little bit like it wasn't like an overly complicated thing that she did. She was like, "Oh, you're gonna do a little switch." That's pretty much it. Like I think you need to use the cutting non-chronologically a little better towards the end of the movie if he did a little more, and that would have actually made it a little more of like a oh, what's happening kind of thing, and let us. It would have added a little more. I don't know about suspense, but like setup, payoff,
Intrigue.
intrigue, yeah, a little more intrigue to what was happening, because again it's kind of just that's even part of my like this climax didn't climax very hard, and like if he cut it up a little bit, which he's known for doing, like cutting things in a way that like reveal, again, Hateful Eight, he cuts using time already as like a big feature of revealing part of like the mystery and the setup, and he does it obviously for the storytelling, but um him cutting a little more there could have been an interesting way to add intrigue and push some of that climax to be a little more a better delivery. I was just thinking of that as like a way it could have been
Yeah,
improved,
I see that.
for how I felt.
Yeah, I see that. But at the end of the day, I just gotta say, I think it was a satisfying film, and I think it was just really well made.
Mm,
So I believe that means I go into my number four.
I do believe
And
so.
again,
Yes.
we have the same selection of movie in our top four.
Hmm.
I don't know if we'll have the same order. I actually have a feeling we probably won't. But my number four also has a great soundtrack.
Hmm.
And it is Reservoir Dogs,
Okay.
which I had to watch for the first time going into this because I had never seen it. So, in all fairness, maybe this movie deserves to be higher. But to be honest, I didn't want to push the movies that make up my top three. I had all seen a long time ago and long sort of like were like, I love this movie. And so I
Mhm.
felt weird about any of them getting pushed out by something that I just watched. So maybe I need to, yeah, I could rewatch this and put it above something else. But right now, Reservoir Dogs, it's just a great movie. And I've always
Mhm.
heard it's a great movie. Just to watch
Yeah.
it though, it's just it's just so well done. And it's the first thing that he really did. And just yeah. I don't really know what else to say about it, except for Steve Buscemi. Why didn't he
Hmm.
work with Steve Buscemi again? Um, uh, I, Steve Buscemi. I always say Shemi. It should be Semi. Buscemi. He just
Is it
makes
really
everything
Buscemi?
better. I believe so. Because I saw him on Colbert and he introduced him as Buscemi, and I'm like, damn.
Oh, we all just I've always said Buscemi. I've always heard it say Buscemi. Are we all just saying it wrong? It doesn't even look like it's supposed to be Buscemi. Like
Yeah, it's
I don't
S.
know.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah,
whatever. If that's true, then I'll change it. I love Steve Buscemi.
but
Buscemi.
so Steve Buscemi
Mm,
obviously makes everything better. He's in all sorts of Tarantino movies, so it's not a lot to really say this. But Michael Madsen, who I believe just recently passed away, he kills it in this movie. Um,
mm.
uh, the stuck in the middle with
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Yeah,
he passed away?
I believe he just passed away.
Oh,
July 3rd.
oh, R.I.P.
Yeah, so and he's in plenty of Tarantino movies, but I think this is where he has a sort of standout role. And yeah, it's just good. Tim Roth, also in
Hmm.
other stuff, including Hateful Eight, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, uh, uh, yeah, I know you're gonna have more to say about it yourself, so I think at this
Hmm.
time I can let you go into your number four.
Okay, my number four is Inglorious Bastards.
Inglorious Bastards.
Inglorious Bastards. I mean, it's so many of the Tarantino goods. Um, you have just those sitting down conversation moments, the iconic, bar, an underground bar scene. Yeah, Traileza, you know, uh, just like the climax denouement, like, and you're like one of the most satisfying, it's how many World War II like movies are out there, but this is the like we're killing Hitler,
This is
it's
where
it,
you get to see machine gun face Hitler.
yeah, yeah. And it's just, as much it just gives you something that you're always kind of looking for in World War II, like the triumph of the Allies over. But this is just like, nah, it's fuck Hitler. Like we're gunning him down, we're burning all of his boys in this theater, just like again, revenge porn, revisionist history, revenge porn against the Nazis.
But this
You
is the
know,
best. This is his best revisionist history revenge porn movie, hands
yeah,
down. It's the reason the other movies I think also go lower is because in your mind, this is the first time he did it, and he did it so good
yeah,
that these other ones where it's like, well, it's not Inglorious Bastards.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And so it's just, and Christoph Waltz, like freaking, stellar, like
yeah,
insane. What I'm gonna say is that like, I actually like this is where I don't know if I mentioned this while we were actually recording, but I did say this to you before. I was like my top five. I was like they're all like neck and necks. Like it was
real
kind of
talk,
tough to
real talk.
place. And so what I'll say is that I'm gonna say about some of my other, obviously I'd say if you just kind of narrow it down like what's in my top three is this movie uses a lot of like big over the top stuff. And obviously Tarantino does that in like all of his films to some degree, but there's a lot of big over the top stuff. And what I'll say more about some of my other three is that without going quite as far over the top, they still have a ton of impact.
Yeah,
And this one, it's like, okay, I mean, we're again Nazi, Hitler, like friggin', like the bar scene, like there's a lot of like, gratuitous violence and like, kind of like over the top stuff that I love. But like that, it sends it so high because of those things, and that's why like I don't, the other ones make it over because of that. Like they
yeah.
do more with a little less. Maybe not like Kill Bill Volume 1's pretty
I was
like
gonna
over
say
the top.
Kill Bill. Kill Bill's not the best way to highlight lack of excess.
Yeah, yeah, but to like I'll touch on that a little more when we get to it. But that is, but yeah, Inglourious Bastards, just wild fun ride, and even from again like the revenge like redemption, like so much setup payoff. Oh, another fun fact, right? I get these fun fact things all the time, and so some is and this was one that I had only seen recently actually is so apparently Jews are not supposed to mix dairy and like bread, I think is what it is. And so in the scene where Christoph Waltz is with I can't remember her name really. It's been a while since I watched it.
Shoshana
Yeah,
in the
Shoshana.
cafe when they get the orders her the pastry.
Yeah, and so when he says he's like, the cream, right?
Yeah,
It is a subtle hinting that like kind of like he knows and he's making her like basically like he's making her do something that's not kosher. And so he does that, and if you look at like her face, like because I was watching it like as like a little short with the scene, you can see her face where she's like holding back revulsion because she's doing something she like doesn't do but like holding it down just trying to act normal and it's like this very subtle scene which you don't know. It's one of those like little details that if you happen to know that you know what's happening, but until I looked at that I was like, oh my God, it's like another little thing put in there
yeah. It's
to add to it.
because already in the scene you have the tension that she knows who this man is and she has seen
Hmm.
because she has seen him before.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that is very interesting. I
Hmm.
have a fun fact that I'm going to share about her character later on when we get to it, but
Hmm.
when I have it on my thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a good movie.
Yep. Does that make us for your um
I well, you just talked, so I think was that your number four?
that's what's my number four.
Then you go into your number three because I already did my
Ah,
four.
yes, very well. So if we're going into my number three is then Kill Bill Volume 1.
I had a feeling. I had a feeling.
Okay. And
Ooh.
so obviously I talked about the over the topness of Inglourious Bastards taking it a little higher. This is
Yeah,
where I'm
when you
gonna
said
use
the over the topness held it back, I'm like, well, then obviously Kill Bill.
this is where the obviously okay, Kill Bill, pretty over the top. Um, but like over the top in its like major climax, but like everything like I would say like some of the fighting and stuff that leads up to it is like makes like a sense. Like there's the gratuitous like blood and stuff scenes and whatnot, but like it's like Inglourious Bastards feels like over the top, like almost from the get-go. Like, I'm hunting Nazis, I need scalps. Like I'm, the some of it feels like I don't know, maybe it's
Well,
hard to describe. Maybe
the thing is that I think the difference is that Inglorious Bastards is set in the real world. So when it does outlandish things, it's
mm,
set in like a real, like it's set in World War II. So when
mm,
outlandish things happen, it feels more outlandish. Whereas Kill Bill is this entirely stylized thing where it's like it's the real world, but like you also feel like it's like a separate thing
yeah.
because the whole
And
thing is so stylized. It has an anime break in the middle of it, like
yeah. So
and
you know what's a good way to describe it is that, and I'm glad you said that because it made me think of like a better way to say it is that Inglorious Bastards, like you said, set in World War II. So it's World War II events with all this like over the top stuff.
yeah.
Kill Bill is a assassin revenge story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like in the context of she is an assassin going to get revenge, and so everything we're seeing is like, yeah, she goes to like a chick's home and like samurai sword fights her, to kill her. Sorry, she doesn't, samurai sword fighter at the time, but
Yeah.
she her and another assassin fight to kill each other, right? And then she goes and hunts down another assassin and has to fight a bunch of like bodyguards. Like it sort of makes sense in the context, even though obviously it's gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
It's not like over the top for what it actually is. That's why it feels a little like, Inglorious Bastards gets hits, higher highs with by adding more gratuity. And so, but what I have to say is that Kill Bill, for being a really like great, interesting, unique story, maybe not. I don't want to say like in the broadest sense unique, but like it like paved. You could say like it paved the way for like a John Wick. She's essentially like early John Wick, like badass
In a way,
assassin that
yeah.
cannot be stopped. Overcomes everything with like superior training, and and we get glimpses into her past and whatnot to take down those that wronged her. It's such like a fueled story. It's such a satisfying story. Where you go, it as we kind of mentioned on volume two, it sort of really concludes so much of it in a way that, like you said, if we never got number two, it would still be a cult classic. But we would just be like, dang, man, really wish we could have gotten that second movie kind of thing. You wouldn't be like, oh, no, second movie, that kind of sucks. Like that's, like it's just half a movie. It's not half a movie. It's a whole movie,
Yeah.
that is waiting for its conclusion. And so many iconic scenes, like even the fact that he draws from the, the Bruce Lee, inspired like yellow black, like it's just there's just like so much good in that movie. And I'll say this, it was iconic for me because I was like young when I watched it. I don't think I got to see it in theaters because I was like I was like actually pretty young, like maybe like 13 or something. So I don't think maybe was allowed to, or if I just got around to it. But I remember like watching it all the way, like kind of like just at home, like on TV when it happened to come up, like on program like a year later, and just being
Yeah.
like, dude, this movie is insane. Like as a kid, just for the sake of like violence and being like crazy and cool. And if you want to like put this out there, like just as a point, like heroine figure, like badass woman figure without any of the detractors of like things you might see, like she's just nobody doubts or says anything about like the bride being an absolute badass
It's
and
like
just
killer.
chopping her way through people, right? You
Yeah.
never hear people go back and be like, oh, this is like
This is
like
woke.
women political blah blah blah. Like you're like, yeah, there was no conversation of being woke. You're like, hell yeah, the bride's just getting it, like
Yeah. Uma
and so
Thurman kicks ass.
yeah, exactly. And Uma Thurman feels like a badass, right? While also having, in the second movie, I'll give this a credit, right, where you still get to feel, her as like a gentle mother, like a scorned, and mother and bride, Lily, going through all this to overcome and like, get her revenge and what she deserves and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, I just, yeah, so much I love about that movie. Definitely, I mean, yeah, had to be in my top three. And again, it did jockey for position a little bit, but it does have like a just a strong old memory as
Yeah.
well.
Fair, 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 fair. So I will say yeah, it's a good movie.
Hmm.
And I guess I should go into my number three,
Yes.
which confirms that we have no overlap in our top four because
Ah.
my number three does have Uma Thurman in it, but it is because it is Pulp Fiction.
Mm.
And so not having Pulp Fiction higher is maybe controversial. I think regularly Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs are seen as like his two best movies, being his first two movies. Maybe that has some aspect to it because he had more of that drive to like get his vision out there, and these were his first two
Mm.
things. But and like you said, that the top stuff sort of jockeys for position. Pulp Fiction was almost my number two until I rewatched a movie. Um, and it really kind of, in a way, it could be interchangeable with my two and even with my one. I think all three are really kind of incredible, like 5 out of 5 films. Uh, but yeah, what hasn't been said about Pulp Fiction though?
Yeah.
Ultimately, I like it's kind of even hard to want to have the talk about it. I guess what is my favorite part of Pulp Fiction?
So
Even that's hard.
if we want, the next movie I'm going to talk about is also Pulp Fiction. So
Oh, that's your so it's your number two.
yeah, so
All right.
so we
Well, yeah, we
can
can
talk about it a
sort
little
of.
more openly. But
All
yeah,
right,
what
that's fair.
you're right to say what hasn't been said about Pulp Fiction, right? Obviously, just like iconic Americana film, Tarantino to the,
Mhm.
if Reservoir Dogs obviously was like a strong, comes out like Pulp Fiction puts them on the map forever. Like, it's such a like again, it really is what it is. It's Pulp Fiction, right? And it's just such like a masterfully crafted film. It really is like kind of A plus. Like, what do you do with what more do you do with it? Like, are there flaws? Can you think of flaws in Pulp Fiction?
I like if I don't know. I don't
It's like, and it's like you don't want to just sit there and like freaking, jerk it off because everybody likes it. But it's like, well, there's a point that everybody likes it and everybody regards it well. Obviously, if you wanted to be like super critical, you'd be like, oh, it's a little overly violent and but like, some of the story doesn't all like, play together maybe. But like even then, I'm like, for what it is supposed to be, it's flawless.
it's his most quotable movie. Like a lot of his movies have great cast, but this is arguably his most stacked cast. Because you got Samuel L. Jackson, obviously, John Travolta, Uma Thurman, Christopher Walken, Bruce Willis.
Mhm.
Um, it's just like, and again, so like, had I never rewatched it, I remember watching it for the first time and being like, okay. The rewatch does allow you to sort of reframe everything and kind of better understand what's going on. Especially, I watched it when I was fairly young and I wasn't fully prepared for the type of storytelling.
Mhm.
Um, Also, shout out, this movie came out the best year, 1994, year I was born. Um, uh, yeah, but yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that it feels like everything that's could be said about Pulp Fiction has been said.
Yeah, there's not much we really need to say to justify why it's high. It's just a standout. It's a flawless film for exactly what it's trying to do, and again iconic in so many ways. So yeah, I mean, just not much more to say. But being that we already talked about my number two,
I'll go
which
straight into my number two, which
yeah,
by factor of deciding to rewatch it because I had not seen this movie on since it came out in theaters back in 2008 because this movie is Inglorious Bastards, and I thought I think I had it at number four. And I was like, I remember it being really good and solid and liking it. And I was like, I have time because I had watched everything else. I'm like, I'm gonna rewatch this because this is the movie I had the biggest gap between first watch and like right now. And I was in middle school when this movie came out. I was not like the same film brain as I am now. So I rewatched that shit and boy howdy does it fucking slap. Uh I think if I just said Christoph Waltz, that alone is enough to be like, this is one of the greatest movies ever made. Um,
yeah,
An interesting thing that I also saw online, unrelated to rewatching the movie, but Christoph Waltz was part of like a 3 year succession of best supporting actor going to a sociopathic villain uh character in a movie that is also seen as like an all-time great, because it was Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men won it, then Heath Ledger won it, and then Christoph Waltz won it. And it's like these three are all like fucking towering performances.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he belongs mentioned with those other two because he really steals kind of every scene he is in. That opening scene
Yeah.
is so fucking brilliant. The way like he comes in so affable, and like by the end of it, like the way he's just like sort of disarmed this man, and like freaking it he and the way he just like volleys across multiple languages when he comes across the actress in the place, and she mentions having Italian bodyguards, and he just swaps into Italian to talk to them. And Brad Pitt just has to go, buongiorno.
Yeah.
Correcto.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt also, like, I think he's such a delight. Just the way
Mhm.
the tone of voice he takes on for this movie.
Mhm.
I don't know why. It also made me think a lot about you. Like, I just feel like he's very you coded in certain ways. Like I feel like I've heard you talk in that voice, like to be funny,
Mhm.
but like, and like even like the sort of like the way he has his hairstyle. Like I was like, but he's just great.
Mhm.
Ah man.
You know what I really like, and just like a little piece on that, is that they leave a little bit of like mystery to him, right? Like they explain some stuff about like, oh, he's the Apache because he did this and that, but like they don't like go deep into him. They let him be a little bit of a mystery, and you just,
Yeah.
he is what he is on the screen. And I like that.
So I can't say forever on this, but like rewatching it, loved it. I just had a great time watching it. One other fun fact that I learned is that the character of Shoshana
Mhm.
was originally being developed by Quentin Tarantino to be this sort of like a Jewish like assassin that targeted Nazis in his original development of the script. And then he ended up taking those characteristics and giving them to the character of the bride, because he had been developing Inglorious Bastards prior to Kill Bill.
Huh.
And so the character of Shoshana that he originally developed basically became the bride, and then what Shoshana was sort of reworked into what she became.
Mhm.
And so I found that to be an interesting fact. And
That
that's my
is a
number
fun fact.
two.
All
That's
right, that's your number two.
so now it's time
So
for our number ones.
our number ones.
Hello?
All right, so our number ones. Do we want you to? Is it you first or me? I guess you just talked, right? So I guess mine is. I mean, I guess in the end, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah,
we're just
it
gonna
all washes
go with
out
me. So we know that my number one is Reservoir Dogs,
by process of
and
elimination.
yeah, by process of elimination. And so Reservoir Dogs, well, I'll say it like this. I remember like I had seen, like Kill Bill and like Inglourious Bastards. I'd seen like a bunch of Tarantino films. Pulp Fiction was kind of like one where it sets you, we're like, whoa, what a great movie. Like Tarantino is really great. I really, like he becomes like a name that you look forward to. I didn't watch Reservoir Dogs until I think I might have watched it like in 20. I'm trying to remember. Actually might have been like 2016 or something. So a little bit later, a bunch of his films had come out, and so I had already like started thinking he was like my favorite director, and I probably like would have said that if anybody had asked at the time. But I watched Reservoir Dogs and just remember being so wowed by that movie. Like that was at a time when I think I was even starting to like kind of develop more like being a little more mindful of film and like the cinematography of things and like just more aspects of film. And it was it was like it just wowed me so much. And I can say like this, it does so much with so little. We're
Yes.
set. most of the movie in one place, which is just like a warehouse. And it is just it like and the fact that this is a movie about a heist that we never see happen. That and but that heist, we have to learn so much about it through the context of things, right? We get this nice, initial glimpse at all these characters. Like again, Steve Buscemi, right? Like that conversation. I've told so many people, I'm like, if you ever want to know how I feel about tipping, go watch that conversation. And I can
Mhm.
even go, if you like we get on the point of like tipping, I could go further, but like I just remember seeing that and being like, just that whole conversation is iconic, character building, just this moment of just like watching these guys talk about something and how it tells you little things about them. And again, like the movie's set in like only like three locations. It's like the cafe, the meeting time, like the plate, the home, before that, and then like basically the warehouse.
There,
And
some of the flashbacks will go to like assorted locations.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
like
yeah.
when Steve Buscemi's running and like the when we see Tim Ross character get shot.
Yeah. And this movie hits like again, it's a little bit of that mystery, putting it together kind of thing for me. It's not like quite a mystery per se, like 'cause like the events technically happened. It's just like seeing things, in different order and how like the intrigue of it, right? This is kind of what I was saying is that even with Jackie Brown, like if he had used a little more of that same kind of like cutting things in an order, like he could have added a little more intrigue to Jackie Brown that way. And so like this movie for being so like simple in it, but being so powerful is what it always stands out. And I literally watched that movie and was like, Tarantino is like my favorite director. I came away from it. I was like, I love, and it's funny because like in some ways I've actually like kind of moved past maybe considering my favorite director. And if anything, it's kind of like because I've seen more of his films have come out and been like, wow, this is a good film, but it's not great. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, maybe be like, like, is he my favorite director still? Like, because like, and I feel like Reservoir Dogs, and I haven't watched it in a while. I watched it about two times. Is like it stands out in my memory as being like A plus. Just I'm like, and that was his first film, which to some degree, like you come out your first film like obviously a real talent for directing and storytelling, and you come out like you're like, hey, you want to make a big impact on the scene, and you just you deliver and you have all these good ideas and some stuff. I think in some ways it's like you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being the last film, so you're like, you're getting a little bloated, maybe you're getting a little like long in the tooth from being around so long, maybe being acclaimed that you're kind of giving in your excesses a little bit.
Yeah.
But that first film, it's tight, it's good storytelling, soundtrack, the events of it. There's just so many like good things in it. But again, it's so simple. It probably had like a nothing budget, I'd imagine, unless maybe I don't know if like the actors were like they were biggish names at that time, like where they had to be paid a lot, but you know,
I would presume that the biggest name in there would have been Harvey Keitel, and even then wasn't necessarily a huge name. Um uh Let me see what the budget was.
yeah, I
Oh,
just feel like it's like a movie that could have gotten done for like next to nothing,
a
practically.
budget of 1.2 to 3 million.
Yeah, in the grand scheme, I mean, maybe at the time that was kind of like a bit more, but like really compared to film, like often as much, that's like dropping the bucket. And it's like, yeah, I just respect it so much for that. It's what wows me so much. It's sometimes like the A pluses a lot of times when I give a movie like an A plus, it's either you're taking something that's like Everything Everywhere at Once, another example of A plus, but it's a
Yeah.
very, very hard concept that you did perfectly, right?
Yes.
This is a very simple concept that you expanded so much. You made such an impactful movie by just how you directed and put it together and what it told that in and of itself is so very impressive to me. And yeah, like I mean, like I guess I'm like kind of going on and on about it, but it's I it just stands out, man.
It
It
does.
stands out.
Yeah.
Win over
Again, I only recently watched it, so like I had to sort of like measure myself in like how highly I rated it because I've only just watched it. So I can't I have to sort of sit with the movie to a degree. And maybe on rewatch I could be like, yeah, you know what, this should be higher. So And yeah, it's a classic for a reason.
Yeah. But you know what's funny is like I mean, I think amongst people that watch film in general, like, it's something that comes up, right? If you like Tarantino, you'll probably get around to hearing about Reservoir Dogs and you'll probably hear good things. But I find that not a lot of people have watched it. Like a lot of
I
people have
agree.
watched Pulp Fiction. But
Yes,
like if I ever happen in the times I've ever gotten around to talking to people about, about Tarantino or his films, I always ask them like, have you seen Reservoir Dogs? And like most of the time it's no, they haven't.
I had only just watched it, and it's disappointing that it took me as long as it did to watch it.
See, and that's kind of how it feels too. Yeah, I even felt the same. Not that it like I mean, in compared to now, it's been quite a while, but like at the time, I'd seen so many other films and just finally got around to watching that and was like, dude, it's one of those films where I mean, all the time people will say like, you haven't seen this, but like nobody's actually seen that one. So it's not that surprising that someone hasn't seen it, but it's like, I mean, it's just so good.
Yeah,
So it's unfortunate that people haven't seen it.
yeah,
So I mean, that's as much as I can say. I've gone on about it. I've given it its accolades. I think it deserves a little more talking, than like Pulp Fiction that like speaks for itself. Everybody knows, like,
yeah. No,
you know,
absolutely. I like go off. Reservoir Dogs does deserve all the credit it gets. I watched it and I was like, damn, why did I wait this long?
yeah. So, but that's that. Reservoir Dogs, my number one. Let's hear about yours.
My number one, by process of elimination, of course, is Kill Bill Volume One.
Mhm.
And it is interesting to have it such a distance from Volume Two, like 5 spots removed. But it's actually interesting that the way you sort of set up your experience in watching Reservoir Dogs is kind of, I feel, weirdly similar to my first experience watching Kill Bill. Because I watched Kill Bill, again, I don't remember the exact year, but I feel like it was maybe 2014, 2015, sometime in the 2010s. And I watched that shit on a laptop. And like I was like, this Kill Bill movie, I've like seen it homage, like it referenced in things like the dun dun dun. I think Robot Chicken had done like a whole thing with the bride and the samurai sword.
Mhm.
So I like seen it referenced in culture, and I was like, all right, time to watch it. And I got to the end of Kill Bill Volume One, and I was just like, that's the best Tarantino movie I've ever seen. That's one of the best movies I've ever seen, period. It's just it's 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 really just comes down to the style of
Mhm.
it. The style is just so impeccable.
Yeah.
Um the like particularly in that like final act whole action sequence with uh Oren, I believe is the Lucy Liu's character's name, and like all of her people. Like this just continuous action sequence that kind of just doesn't really stop and only sort of escalates over time. It like you're just glued to the screen watching this like gratuitous violence, but it's just so compelling because it never stays the same. It's never just the same thing. Like it'll change like who she's fighting. We'll get a scene where we're just watching it in silhouette or with like different backgrounds or backdrop. Then when you finally get the fight with Lucy Liu and it's in this snow set, like
Mhm.
it's just so perfectly crafted. And then like yeah, like the earliest part of the movie, you get an action sequence in someone's house, and like the sort of development from all right, so she's killing this person here, or she's fighting like with samurai swords, and she has the specific blade that she went to this specific creator to get the best blade she can get. um they again, I referenced it earlier, there's just like a break in the part of the movie to tell someone's backstory, and it's just an anime
Yeah.
sequence
That
to tell it.
that is the like a piece of Kill Bill Volume One that like sometimes I forget that that's there. But like when you say it right now, I'm like, how this guy drop a friggin' anime in the middle of the movie, and it works so well.
It does. And it's like there's no other way to tell this character's backstory than to put it in anime. And
Yeah,
it's well made anime.
yeah.
Like yeah, like it's just so cool. It's just such a cool movie.
Mhm.
And like Uma Thurman kills it, Lucy Liu kills it. There's really not like I think a lot of people, more people have probably watched Kill Bill than Reservoir Dogs.
Mhm.
Maybe it maybe gets less watched than Pulp Fiction because Pulp Fiction is like this sort of juggernaut. But I think Kill Bill is watched enough by people, and he's still like I heard recently that I think he did a showing for the version where it's both movies together. But like it can't be he can't put it online. He can just put it in theater showings, I guess, is the reasoning behind that. But yeah, I like we said it earlier, you can have Kill Bill Volume 1 and not need number 2, whereas number 2 cannot does not is nowhere near as good as it is without Volume 1 to set
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Understandably, and again, it's like obviously two can't really go anywhere, but yeah, it's you said everything. Obviously, maybe I didn't put it at number one, but I do agree with everything you're saying. So
Yeah, I again like the man Quentin Tarantino, he is a good director,
yeah.
and hopefully we get to see whatever his last movie is, and
Mhm.
maybe it will be his last movie, maybe he decides to do something else, but
Mhm.
whatever it is, I'm excited to see it. I don't think he's really missed fully, at least
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I will say, even if I have some, like my own little like criticisms of Death Proof and Jackie Brown, I do not think they are bad films.
Yeah,
I have reasons why I'm like, they're not great, they're not for me, they're not bad.
yeah,
And so yeah, like he has not made a bad film. I think he could have done better on like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there's clear flaws and it could have been better. Death Proof, not my kind of movie, but fair enough. Kind of what you said, like there are more flaws in it maybe than like I even remember. And Jackie Brown again, like didn't do it for me, but it's not like some bad storytelling by any means, so but yes, the rest of his films are just, I mean, like they hit and some of them are slam dunks, knock it out of the parks.
exactly.
And so it's like, this is why I was like when I originally, came up with the idea like, oh, let's do a director thing. He was like the one I came up with because it really was like I just happened to talk with my roommate about like Tarantino films and thinking about like what's your favorite, what's the ranking and stuff. So um but Tarantino, great director overall, and I
Honestly,
do
doing
look
this
forward to
raised my
seeing the
esteem of him
yeah, I do
on
look
that
forward to
front.
seeing the final, film. I think it'd be really cool of him to actually just stick to it, make a final film. What I really hope is that there's a little bit, it's almost like build up. You put so many pretty good movies out there, and we see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we kind of see again like the excess of the age of him, becoming an acclaimed director and having so much under his belt.
Yeah, his last
And
two movies are pretty fucking long.
yeah, and so I think, I would sit through another, 3.5 hour movie. I would. It's not even about like lengthwise, but what I hope is that like, in his last film, because it's gonna kind of have like it's gonna have a lot riding on it in a sense. Like if it's literally his last film, last time he's got a chance to make, make his mark. I hope he doesn't like, he doesn't like continue with kind of the excess of like of just him being around like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Again, it's excessive. Like it's excessive and it harms the film as a whole. I think by him not being willing to sacrifice more or be more strategic in his cuts. And I hope that he doesn't like do that with his last film. I don't think that it's like I said, I don't think it's gonna be bad. I don't think he's gonna put out like his last one will be bad, but it would kind of suck if it's not like if he doesn't end up, coming out with something pretty exemplary.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I like doing this director exercise with
Mhm.
Quentin Tarantino, and perhaps we can do it again. Perhaps we already have a plan in motion for another director that may have been my suggestion because
Yeah,
it's the
can we say
director.
it?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess you can say it.
My suggestion when he brought up Tarantino, I was like, well, maybe we can do Christopher Nolan, which maybe is the sort of like it's played out in like to say Christopher Nolan's great. Like he's very much he's got um uh, a reputation certainly of being well regarded by a certain group of like cinephile millennial men, and maybe I'm just that. Maybe I just saw The Dark Knight at a specifically impressionable age, and I was like, I'll watch everything this man makes going forward. But yeah, he's got I think he's only made like 12 movies. They just recently finished production. I saw on the Odyssey, which comes out next year, and I'm very excited about. And
Oh, I'm so excited
I'm sure
about
it'll
that.
be over 3 hours long. So
Or
to say that directors can't be excessive, Oppenheimer was over 3 hours, and I'm like, I will went and watch that shit 3 times.
yeah,
Like it, their length doesn't necessarily mean excess, and I
mhm.
think Nolan
Yeah,
does a good job of showing that with some of his movies. That
yeah,
like you can have a long movie and still feel like, well, yeah, you needed every bit of that.
yeah. Oh, 100%. And that's even just Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You didn't need all that, and that's like the clear even thing. But I agree, length does not mean excess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in a lot of cases nowadays, like it often ends up being. And but you're right to point at Oppenheimer and say it's not. I will say, I said I'm excited. I don't really get excited about things, but it's certainly something I look forward to
Yeah.
with the Odyssey because I don't know if you ever seen that, like, I don't know if they made other ones, but there's an Odyssey that they used to play on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day that I watched like multiple times, and I love that story. I love how that one was made. It was like really great. So I can only imagine what Nolan will do with the Odyssey. And that's like a big story. That's a big story. There's a lot to work with there.
Do you know who
And
plays Odysseus?
I do not.
Matt Damon.
Wow. Huh, interesting. I'm interested to see how that actually goes. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be good, but I'm interested to see how it goes. Matt Damon's matured a lot, like as a
Yeah.
guy, so he's a bit older. I still sometimes have a vision in my head of him being like a little on the like younger side, like a younger face on him, even though he's not like young by any means now. So I
Yeah.
am interested to see how that goes. And obviously Matt Damon is not a bad choice by any means.
And
Interesting.
technically, you also need to cast someone that ages 10 years. So he needs to
Yeah.
start 10 years. It needs to be someone that can be between a 10-year age gap because that's
Yeah.
how long, or 20 years, well, 10 years because it's not like it's the Iliad also.
Yeah. So that is something to look forward to, certainly. But if anybody actually stuck with us all the way to the end here on our video, you can look forward to us talking about Christopher Nolan's films and doing a top 10 ranking. If he's got 12 films, I mean, we might
We could
either we'll
shave
rank
off
all
the
of them
bottom ones, or
yeah, we may check
we
off the
can rank them
bottoms.
all. We'll see. And then
Yeah.
what other directors should we do this for? Um, I think we threw around some ones, but if other people have suggestions, one, I've not seen many of his movies, but I think Paul Thomas Anderson only has like 10 movies or
Mhm.
maybe nine. And then the one that's about to come out that was shot in Sacramento, California, one battle after another, coming out this
Mhm.
fall,
Mhm.
starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I
Wait,
think,
really? There's a movie shot in Sacramento starring Leonardo DiCaprio?
yeah,
I did not know about that. So,
yeah. It was shot like last year, I think. But yeah, exciting stuff. Exciting stuff.
gonna be
Ooh,
pretty cool.
yeah.
So,
But any
look
other
forward to that.
directors that people have to recommend?
Mhm. Put them in the comments. or text us
Yeah.
directly. But if you're actually watching this, you should definitely put it in the comments because that helps the algorithm.
Yeah. Help Al Gore's rhythm.
Yeah, he needs it. So, but I think that is all for the Tarantino
I'd say so.
ranking director cut. And so I guess that's going to be it. I've been Robert.
I've been Ryan.
Catch you next time, folks.
Yeet.